In these next couple of videos, I'm going to show you how to put together a canvas, how to stretch a canvas, and then how to prime a canvas. And so it's a kind of a three-part process, so that's why I'm going to split it up between two videos. The first part is to put your stretcher bars together. So whichever stretcher bars you're working with, you're going to have two short ones and two long ones. Okay, so these are 16 by 18 in this example. But again, whatever the short ones are, you'll have two of those, and for the long ones, you'll have two of those. And for those people who already know how to stretch a canvas, you can just watch this as a review of how to do it. The first thing is you'll take a long stretcher bar, a short stretcher bar, and you're going to dovetail them together. You can see how they have these dovetails on the edges, on the corners, and dovetail those. And I'm going to take a short one, and dovetail that together. And then finally the long one, and dovetail those together. And you'll need to get it as rectangle as possible. Okay, you can check it on the table. And then what I want to do is I want to just put one staple in the corner so that they don't move around while I'm stretching the canvas. This is a staple gun. If you get a staple gun where you go like that and no staples come out, well then that means it needs more staples. So you get, there are special type of staples, so make sure I have those types of staples that go in here. And you're gonna take those, you pinch this right here, open up the staple gun. You'll see there's the open area like this. You take the staples that are, the sharp sides are sticking up. You set those in there and then close the staple gun like that, and it will click into place. And now your staple gun is loaded. Now I need to cut a piece of canvas for these stretcher bars. And so here I have a roll of canvas. And I've got my scissors here. And so with the canvas, you'll want to make sure to give yourself a few extra inches over here on the side, because I need to be able to stretch it over like this and have enough room to be able to pull it. So that's about 2.5, 3 inches, something like that. So I'm just sort of folding it over and making sure that I've got enough where I can actually pull the canvas. And then I'm going to cut around this so that, again, giving myself enough room around. Okay, and then on the other side. Okay. Okay, so now I've cut my piece of canvas for the stretcher bars. And the next thing I need to do now is to stretch the canvas. So I'm going to be stretching the canvas over the stretcher bars like you would stretch a drum head, okay? So I need to make sure that the canvas is taut, it's tight over the stretcher bars. I'm going to start that process by first getting the canvas in place so the canvas doesn't move around or twist around while I'm stretching. So right now, I'm not going to be pulling on the canvas. I'm just sort of folding the fabric over, putting a staple in. Notice I'm going right at the center of the stretcher bar. Right at the center, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to pull just very, very slightly, and fold it over. And then, again, right there in the center. Again, I'm just centering my canvas right now. And then the same thing over here. I'm going to pull just ever so slightly right here in the center, and then center that, and then I'm going to turn it, and again pulling it just slightly. Okay, so now my canvas is centered. It won't twist as I'm turning and moving the canvas around. What you want to do when you stretch a canvas, you want to start by, again, at that center point, and I'm going to do 2 coming out like this, and then I always go to the opposite side and then pull and stretch it and do 2 on the other side. Then I do 2 on this side, stretch it, 2 on this side. And I continued that rotation until I get all the way to the corners, okay? And so I'm gonna do this rather quickly just for the sake of the length of the video. But you can see I'm rotating the canvas. I'm not going to do a whole row of one side and then switch. You don't want to do that. You'll end up with a loose canvas, and you do not want a loose canvas to work on, okay? Again, I'm pulling it, rotating, pulling it, pulling it, rotating, pulling, pulling, rotating. Notice I'm going to the opposite side. Each time I do one side, I'm going to the opposite side. Pulling, pulling. The way that I'm pulling is that I'm putting my fingers here, I'm putting my thumbs, forefinger and thumb here, and I'm actually pulling the canvas. That's why we call it stretching. You're actually stretching the canvas over the stretcher bars. Turn it. Again, at this point, toward the corners, I'm pulling quite hard at this point. You'll be able to see the fabric moving here in the center. If you're not seeing that fabric move and starting to stretch in the center, then you're not stretching it hard enough. You'll have to undo all of it and then start all over again. Pulling. 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 Okay, turning to the opposite side. Notice the staples are about 1 inch apart, roughly 1 inch apart. You want to keep them, you don't want them this far apart. If they're about 2 or 3 inches apart, that's too far apart. Then you're not getting a good stretch on the canvas. Now I'm getting toward the corners. And as I do the corners, I'm going to be stretching, pulling the corner, and then I'm going to do a staple right here, right before that corner edge. So I'm going to actually staple at an angle. So I'm pulling, staple at an angle. Same here, pulling, staple at an angle. Now I'm going to go to the opposite corner, pulling, staple at an angle. Same thing, pulling, staple at an angle. It's right there. I'm going to come over here to this corner, pull it, staple at an angle. Okay, staple at an angle. Now I'm going to that opposite corner. Same thing. You can take your time doing this process. I'm just going quickly for the sake of the length of the video. Okay, so now on the corners, you're gonna have these sort of triangle pieces. And what I like to do is I like to have my corners both on one side. And I usually do them on the short side, okay? So I'm gonna take that triangle piece like this, and I'm gonna fold it over. So what you get is a triangle like this on the very edge here. That's only part of the fold that you're gonna see. So again, you've got the triangle, I'm folding it over, and then down. Folding it over, and then down. Kind of like bed corners, if you've ever made a bed, folded a bed sheet like that. Again, you've got the corner like this, and you're gonna fold it over. And again, the only part that you see is that little corner right there on the edge, and then I'm folding it down. And giving a couple staples to hold it in place. So this is what you'll see. You'll just see these little corners like this on either side. okay? And then I'm gonna do the same to the other side. Again, got my triangle, I'm gonna fold it over, folding it over, and then down. And holding it flat there, and then giving it a couple staples to hold it in place, and then the last corner, folding it over, and then down. All right, so that is your canvas. It is now stretched. So when you tap on this, it should be able to make a sound, and it should feel pretty tight on the stretcher bars. If not, if this area is loose and you see wrinkles or it's wavy here on the edges or it's wavy toward the corners, that means you need to pull it off of the stretcher bars, get the pliers and pull the staples out and start again. You need to make sure that this is tight before we do the gesso, and that's the next part, will be part 2, okay? So again, part 1 was putting together the stretcher bars and cutting your fabric. Part 2 was stretching the fabric with the staple gun, again, going side to side until you get to the corners. Part 3, which is the next video, will be adding the gesso to the canvas, all right, in multiple layers.